There are crises we see coming. News alerts, hospital scenes, sirens slicing through quiet city nights. And then, there are the quiet ones. The ones we don't talk about. The ones that slip into the bloodstream of society without a headline, without a warning, without a moment when the world stops and says, "This is serious." This is one of those crises. Metabolic syndrome, a slow-moving metabolic malfunction. A silent biochemical storm that is quietly affecting 1 in every 3 adults and rising. A hidden epidemic changing the way we live, eat, age, think, and feel. Not overnight, but drip by drip, habit by habit, year by year. Most people don't even know its name, yet almost everyone has felt its first whispers. The afternoon crash that hits like gravity, the stubborn belly fat that resists every diet, the cravings, sugar, bread, snacks, always calling, the brain fog that makes simple tasks feel heavy, the feeling of waking up tired, even after a full night's sleep. This isn't aging. This isn't laziness. It's biology, someone struggling. Because metabolic syndrome is not a disease in the traditional sense. It is a condition of conditions, a cluster of internal warnings, elevated fasting, blood sugar, rising blood pressure, higher triglycerides, lower HDL cholesterol, increased abdominal fat. Have 3 of these, and the body is already signaling distress. Have 2, and you're closer than you think. But why is this syndrome so dangerous? Because it doesn't shout, it whispers, and those whispers build into a storm. The gateway to type 2 diabetes, heart disease, fatty liver disease, stroke, neurodegeneration, hormonal collapse, the very conditions that shorten lives and drain joy from everyday living. Yet here's the part we rarely hear. This epidemic was created, not inherited, not accidental. Created. It emerged alongside ultra-processed food, alongside sedentary living, alongside chronic stress and poor sleep, alongside modern convenience. Convenience that rewired our biology for the worst. A timeline that looks innocent on the surface. Breakfast cereal replaces eggs. Snacking becomes normal. Sugar finds its way into sauces, breads, coffee drinks, baby food. Screen time replaces movement. Late nights replace sleep. Stress becomes the background noise of life, and our metabolism, once built for survival, now struggles to survive modern life. Think of glucose like energy currency. Once we earned it, with movement, labor, effort. Now we swipe for it and overdraft daily. The body wasn't made for constant access to sugar and refined carbohydrates. It wasn't made for sitting 10 hours a day. It wasn't made for low sleep, high stress, always busy, always eating lifestyles. And so, quietly, the metabolic system begins to sputter, insulin resistance creeping in, fat accumulating around organs, inflammation simmering beneath the surface. Most don't notice until one day they do. Because metabolic syndrome rarely announces itself with pain or panic, but with a slow, dull erosion of vitality. The person who used to leap out of bed now drags. The one who walked upstairs now breathes heavier. The one who could skip a meal now shakes with hunger. The one who felt in control now feels off. But here's the truth, the powerful truth. Metabolic syndrome is not a life sentence. It is a signal, a turning point, a chance to reclaim the body before decline becomes disease. You do not catch metabolic syndrome. You drift into it, and you can climb back out through choices, food, movement, sleep, stress, rhythm. Through habits, small, consistent, powerful. Through understanding, simple science that every person deserves to know, because the body wants to heal, the metabolism wants to recover. And when you give it the right environment, it will. In this documentary, we're not just exposing a hidden epidemic. We are offering a roadmap out of it, a path grounded in science, lived through real humans, written in blood glucose curves and lipid panels and before and after energy levels. This is the story of modern health and the awakening that can change it. To understand metabolic syndrome, we must understand the system it hijacks. The metabolism. A word we all use, rarely define, and often misunderstand. Metabolism is not fast or slow. It is not a number on a treadmill display or a supplement promise. It is a living orchestra inside you. A coordination of hormones, enzymes, fuel pathways, and cellular decisions that determine whether your body is storing energy or using it, healing or inflaming, aging gently or aging rapidly. At the heart of this orchestra sits insulin, a hormone so fundamental, so powerful, that when it begins to misfire, the entire body feels the consequences. Insulin's job is simple on paper. Move glucose, sugar, out of the bloodstream and into cells for fuel or storage. But in practice, it is the body's traffic controller, its energy manager, its fat storage signal, its hunger modulator. It is one of the most influential hormones we produce. And when insulin begins to lose its effectiveness, a condition we call insulin resistance, metabolic syndrome takes its first breath. Here's where things get interesting. Insulin resistance doesn't arrive suddenly. It is not an overnight event. It is a gradual dulling of the body's sensitivity, a slow noise building inside the system. Imagine knocking on a door. At first, the knock is heard. The door opens easily. But knock too often, too hard, too continuously, and eventually, the person inside stops responding. You knock louder. They ignore more. That is insulin resistance. We bombard the body with sugar and refined carbohydrates day after day, not always in the form of desserts, but in cereal, toast, pasta, sandwiches, rice bowls, snacks, sweet coffee, juices, energy bars, healthy smoothies, crackers, dressings, sauces, and insulin, trying to do its job, keeps knocking. Cells begin to ignore it. So the body produces more insulin to force the message through. For a while this works. We stay afloat. We don't feel the shift, but pressure builds. Excess insulin tells the body to store fat, especially around the abdomen. It makes the hunger hormone, ghrelin, louder. It reduces satiety signals. It alters cortisol, the stress hormone. It pushes blood pressure higher. It changes how the liver processes fats. It inflames blood vessels. It disturbs reproductive hormones. Soon, the body is not just mismanaging sugar. It is mismanaging energy, appetite, inflammation, and stress. That's why metabolic syndrome looks so varied. Why it hides behind fatigue in one person, stubborn weight in another, brain fog in a third, rising blood pressure in a fourth. It wears many masks, but its root is singular, metabolic dysfunction. And here is the chilling truth. It can begin long before blood tests show anything abnormal. A fasting glucose of 95 to 99? Many doctors say normal. But research shows this may already signal insulin resistance brewing beneath the surface. A growing waistline, but healthy weight on the scale? Still a sign. Because visceral fat, fat around organs, is metabolically active and dangerous. Feeling tired after meals? Struggling with cravings? Needing caffeine to feel normal? These are not personality traits. These are metabolic whispers. Case after case tells a similar story. A man in his early 40s, not overweight, yet exhausted, mentally foggy, watching his belt tighten month by month. He begins walking after dinner, swaps sugary breakfasts for eggs and greens, sleeps 1 extra hour. Within weeks, energy rises, cravings ease, weight drops from the midsection first, and labs improve. A woman in her 30s, doing everything right, yet gaining weight despite salads and smoothies. Her smoothies? Fruit heavy. Her salads? Fat-free dressing. Her stress high, her sleep short. She adds protein, lifts weights 3 times weekly, introduces breath work and magnesium. In 3 months, migraines fade, energy stabilizes, and for the first time in years, she feels in her body again. not fighting it. A retired adult told aging was to blame for fatigue and rising blood pressure. A simple habit change, 15-minute walks after meals, vegetables first, starch second, brings metabolic markers down without medication. These aren't miracles. They are physiology, given a chance to work again. But to reverse metabolic syndrome, one thing matters above all. We must stop treating symptoms and start repairing the system. Not eat less, move more. A phrase so oversimplified it borders on harmful. Not crash diets, not punishing workouts, not fear or guilt or shame. The body is not broken, it is overwhelmed. And overwhelmed systems don't need force. They need support. Support through real food. Support through movement. Support through sleep and nervous system regulation. Support through rhythm and routine. Support through understanding. Because once you understand how the metabolic system works, you stop fighting your body and start partnering with it. If metabolic syndrome is the modern epidemic, then modern life is its architect. No single event created it. No singular invention broke us. It was the accumulation, the stacking of subtle shifts that rerouted human metabolism over decades. We didn't wake up one morning with insulin resistance. We drifted into it, one convenience at a time, one habit at a time, one compromise at a time. And to regain control, we must first understand the forces that quietly reshaped our biology. Not to blame the world, but to see clearly so we can choose differently. So what are the major triggers? Let's pull them into the light. 1. The constant carbohydrate environment. We live in a food environment saturated with fast energy. Bread for breakfast, granola bars mid-morning, sandwich or noodles at lunch, coffee with syrup in the afternoon, pasta or rice bowls for dinner, snacks watching TV. We graze, we sip calories. We fuel with glucose, not balance. Our ancestors ate carbohydrates too, but they earned them. They moved, they gathered, they hunted. They walked miles for fruit that was seasonal, not year-round. We, by contrast, have sugar within arm's reach, always. Food was once nourishment. Now it's entertainment, comfort, routine, reward, boredom filler, and glucose never gets a break. 2. Sedentary bodies in a sitting world. Our muscles were built for movement, not marathons, but daily consistent mobility. Yet now, the average adult sits 8 to 12 hours a day. The body becomes what you repeatedly do. Walk little, muscles weaken, sit long, insulin sensitivity falls, move rarely, mitochondria slow, and we mistake this decline for aging, when often it's underuse, not age. A 15-minute walk after meals has more metabolic power than many medications. Not because walking is magic, but because the body expects movement as part of life. 3. Chronic stress, the invisible fuel disruptor. Stress used to be physical and short-lived. A threat outside the cave, a sprint for safety. Today, stress is mental, emotional, constant. Emails, bills, notifications, noise, deadlines, comparison, pace, chaos disguised as normal. When cortisol rises chronically, the body releases more glucose into the bloodstream, preparing for danger that never physically comes. More glucose, more insulin, more resistance over time. 4. Sleep deprivation, the hormonal earthquake. Sleep is not downtime. It's metabolic maintenance. It's hormonal balance. It's hunger regulation. It's repair. Lose sleep and even a healthy person becomes insulin resistant in one night. Leptin falls, hunger rises, ghrelin spikes, cravings intensify. Decision-making weakens, willpower falls. Fat storage increases, especially around the belly. And we think coffee fixes it. No, coffee masks it. 5. Nutrient-poor, hyperpalatable foods. Ultra-processed food is engineered. Taste, texture, bliss point, crunch, melt. Designed not for nourishment, but consumption. They bypass hunger regulation, confuse satiety signals, fuel overeating, and create dopamine-driven cycles that feel like choice, but behave like conditioning. We aren't weak. These foods are strong. 6. Snacking culture, the metabolic slow poison. We snack not out of hunger, but habit. And every snack triggers insulin. Every insulin spike trains the body to store, not burn. Metabolic health thrives on periods of rest from eating, not starvation. Rhythm. And the modern world forgot rhythm. So here we are, living slower lives physically, faster lives mentally, eating more frequently, moving less frequently, fueling with sugar, recovering with caffeine, soothing with food, sleeping late, waking exhausted, stressing constantly, not because we are flawed, but because we are human, living in a world misaligned with human biology. And yet, there is hope in this truth. If lifestyle created the drift into dysfunction, then lifestyle can guide us back, step by step, habit by habit, environment by environment, choice by choice. Reversing metabolic syndrome is not about perfection. It is about realignment. Not punishment, but partnership. Not control, but care. Not restriction, but restoration. And when the body begins to feel supported again, something extraordinary happens. Energy returns, hunger calms, sleep deepens, focus sharpens, mood stabilizes, blood markers improve, the belly softens. The body remembers how to thrive. Because health is not lost. It is buried beneath habits that do not serve us. We do not have to fight our biology. We need to live with it again. If there is one truth that reshapes everything we believe about health, it is this. The body is not fragile. It is resilient, designed to repair, adapt, evolve, and recover. Metabolic syndrome is not a sign of weakness. It is a sign of mismatch. Biology trying to survive in an environment it was never built for. And when we realign environment with biology, the body doesn't just improve. It rebounds, often faster than we expect. Let's explore how the healing actually happens. The first shift, restoring insulin sensitivity. When we reduce the constant stimulation of insulin, fewer glucose spikes, fewer snacks, more balanced meals, something remarkable occurs. Cells become receptive again, like static fading from a radio signal. Messages get through. Energy flows instead of being trapped. Fat is burned instead of stored. This is not magic. It is physiology returning to its baseline design. A person who once needed snacks every 2 hours begins to forget hunger between meals. The morning brain fog that felt inevitable begins to lift. The afternoon crash disappears, not from caffeine, but from metabolic balance. The body remembers balance when we offer it breathing room. The second shift, leveraging muscles, our metabolic engine. Muscle isn't vanity tissue. It is metabolic tissue. Every step, every squat, every lift, every climb upstairs, muscle consumes glucose. Muscle increases insulin sensitivity. Muscle protects against aging, not by avoiding it, but by meeting it with strength. Even small, consistent muscle activation begins changing internal chemistry. This is why someone can lift weights twice a week or take post-meal walks and see significant shifts in energy and hunger control. The body speaks through adaptation, and movement is the language it understands best. The third shift, nutrition that respects biology, not restriction, not starvation, not fear-driven dieting, but nourishment, protein prioritized, vegetables and fiber supporting digestion and microbiome function. Healthy fats, stabilizing hormones. Carbohydrates consumed with awareness, not avoidance. Choosing whole, slow digesting forms and timing them wisely. Food is not the enemy, chaos is. When meals become balanced, timed, mindful, spikes smooth out. Inflammation cools. Blood markers shift. Appetite regulates. Cravings quiet down. The brain stops begging for stimulation because the body isn't starving for stability. The fourth shift, rest, sleep, and nervous system. Reset. Healing does not happen in motion alone. It happens in rest. One good night of sleep improves insulin sensitivity. 1 week of consistent sleep patterns can reduce hunger swings. 1 moment of deep breathing can interrupt cortisol's metabolic grip. Stress isn't just emotional, it's chemical. And when we create moments of exhale, meditation, nature, journaling, quiet morning routines, the body exits survival mode and re-enters repair mode, healing lives in that shift. The 5th shift: real humans, real results. You don't need dramatic transformation stories to believe this, but they exist everywhere. A 52-year-old man with high blood pressure and prediabetes, walking after dinner, adding protein at breakfast, sleeping at 10 p.m. instead of midnight. 3 months later, medication lowered, weight down, belly shrinking, morning energy restored. A 29-year-old woman, frustrated with weight gain and constant exhaustion, discovering her healthy, low-fat, smoothie-heavy diet was spiking glucose daily. She adds eggs, salmon, avocado, greens, starts strength training twice weekly. 6 weeks later, mood lifted, hunger stable, inflammation markers down, jeans fitting again. A 67-year-old retiree, resigned to inevitable aging, begins chair exercises, evening walks, and protein with every meal. Within months, posture improves, balance steadies, labs normalize, life expands. Not perfection, not struggle, just alignment. These stories are not rare. They are simply untelevised. They don't make headlines because quiet reversals are not dramatic. They are slow victories, rooted in ordinary choices repeated with care, and that's what makes them powerful. Because if millions drifted into metabolic dysfunction without noticing, millions can walk out with intention. 1 meal at a time, 1 habit at a time, 1 belief shift at a time. Not through punishment, but through partnership with the body. And now that we understand how healing unfolds internally, we step into the practical blueprint, the lived roadmap. Not theory, not slogans, but everyday implementation. The kind that fits real lives, real schedules, real emotions, real challenges, and still works. If metabolic syndrome were loud, dramatic, and painful from day one, the world would have solved it decades ago. But it's quiet. It creeps, it whispers, it corrodes, slowly, silently. And before most people realize what's happening, the damage is already woven deep into their biology. This is the hidden danger of metabolic syndrome. Its timeline is subtle, but its impact is explosive. Let's zoom deeper into what's happening beneath the surface. Insulin resistance. The cellular breakdown begins. Every cell in your body depends on glucose, your brain especially. Insulin is the gatekeeper that escorts glucose into cells. But with insulin resistance, that process stops working smoothly. It's as if the body keeps knocking, and the cells keep ignoring the door. To compensate, the pancreas pumps out more insulin, and for a while, it works. Until one day, it doesn't. The bloodstream becomes flooded with sugar. Fat storage accelerates, especially in the belly. Inflammation begins simmering like a quiet fire in the background. Most people won't feel a thing. They will just notice lower energy, brain fog, afternoon crashes, late-night sugar cravings, stubborn belly fat that won't budge, waking up tired even after a full night's sleep. These subtle symptoms whisper the reality. The body's fuel system is breaking. Blood vessels under attack. Sugar behaves like tiny shards of glass on the inside of arteries. Every spike cuts. Every spike inflames. Every spike scars. And those scars? The body patches them with cholesterol. Not because cholesterol is the villain, but because it's the Band-Aid. Over time, this leads to plaque buildup, narrowed arteries, increased blood pressure, higher stroke and heart attack risk. Metabolic syndrome isn't just about weight or sugar. It is a cardiovascular time bomb. Fatty liver, the silent organ crisis. Most people think fatty liver only happens to heavy drinkers. But today, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease is exploding, even in teens. When blood sugar stays high, excess energy doesn't just stay in fat cells. It infiltrates the liver. A fatty liver can't detox efficiently. It struggles to regulate sugar storage. Hormones become imbalanced. And because the liver has almost no pain nerves, most people never realize it's sick until it's dangerously advanced. Hormonal chaos. Hormones are not independent switches. They are a network. When metabolic health breaks down, so do hormones like insulin, cortisol, stress hormone, leptin, hunger regulation, ghrelin, appetite signal, estrogen, and testosterone. That's why metabolic syndrome often looks like constant hunger, emotional eating, stress walking in the body, low testosterone in men, PCOS in women, mood swings and anxiety, reduced metabolism. The body is no longer operating in balance. It's fighting itself. Brain health declines. Modern science has begun calling Alzheimer's disease type 3 diabetes because glucose dysfunction doesn't only harm the body, it starves the brain. Research links metabolic syndrome to memory decline, cognitive issues, accelerated brain aging, increased risk of dementia. The same blood sugar spikes ruining arteries are starving neurons. It's not just a physical illness. It's a neurological future we're shaping every day. It doesn't happen overnight. And that's the trap. People rarely wake up one morning thinking, I think I'm developing metabolic syndrome. Instead, it begins with small shifts. Pants fit tighter, energy dips more often, staying awake feels harder, workouts feel tougher, junk food hits harder, motivation drops, and we blame aging, stress, life. But aging is not the enemy. Modern habits are. The truth? Metabolic decline is optional. Even when it has already begun, the body can repair. Cells can relearn sensitivity. Arteries can heal. The liver can regenerate. The brain can sharpen again. Fat can burn instead of store. Energy can return like a rising sun. Inside every human body exists remarkable capacity for recovery when it's given the right environment. And that's where we go next. Because reversing metabolic syndrome is not about harsh diets or punishment. It's about understanding the biology and supporting it back to balance. Your body wants to heal. We just need to step out of its way. When most people first hear the term metabolic syndrome, they imagine a lifelong burden, a slow decline with no exit. But here is the truth that medical textbooks use to ignore. Metabolic syndrome is not a destiny. It is a signal, and signals are meant to be answered. The human body is not fragile. It is resilient, adaptable, built for recovery. Even after years of metabolic imbalance, the body can reclaim balance, often faster than anyone expects. Not through punishment, not through starvation, not through extreme workouts, but through alignment with what our biology is fundamentally designed for. Let's explore how healing really begins. The first shift: feeding cells, not cravings. Most diets fail because they fight human physiology instead of working with it. People are told to eat less, move more, control cravings by being disciplined, ignore hunger cues, count calories, like accountants of their own biology. But metabolic syndrome isn't a math deficit. It's a biology imbalance. To reverse it, we focus not on restriction, but restoration. That starts with stabilizing blood sugar. When blood sugar rises and falls like a roller coaster, cravings follow. Energy crashes follow. Mood swings follow. But when glucose is stable, hunger normalizes, cravings diminish, energy rises, fat becomes fuel again. The body switches from survival and storage mode to repair and release mode. Protein and fiber, the forgotten superpowers. Before supplements, before fancy diet plans, before expensive detoxes, 2 foundational steps do more than almost anything else. Increase protein intake, increase fiber intake. Protein stabilizes hunger and supports metabolism. Fiber slows glucose absorption, feeds gut bacteria, and reduces inflammation. Together, they turn meals into fuel instead of chaos. Instead of what should I cut out, the question becomes, what can I add that supports healing? That shift in mindset alone frees people from the punishment mentality of dieting. Movement, Not exercise, movement. Exercise is a modern invention. Movement is human nature. You do not need to become an athlete to reverse metabolic syndrome. You just need to remind the body it was made to move. Walking after meals, light strength training, stretching and mobility, breathing work to lower cortisol, standing more, sitting less. These are not fitness hacks. They are biological triggers. Because every time you move, you tell your muscles, stay alive, stay sensitive to insulin, stay awake. Muscles are glucose sinks. The more active they are, the less sugar stays in the bloodstream. A 10-minute walk after meals can do more for metabolic health than an intense workout performed once a week. Healing isn't hard, it's consistent. The stress plus sleep equation. We often talk about sugar and fat, but cortisol, your stress hormone, might be the most underestimated driver of metabolic breakdown. Chronic stress tells the body, store more fat, hold more glucose, prepare for emergency. And when sleep suffers, hormones follow. Ghrelin rises, hunger goes up. Leptin falls, satiety goes down. Cortisol rises, fat storage increases. Insulin sensitivity drops, blood sugar rises. Good sleep isn't optional. It's metabolic medicine. This is why healing doesn't start in the gym. It starts in the nervous system. When the body feels safe, it stops hoarding energy and starts releasing it. Your body doesn't need perfection. It needs permission. You don't need extreme plans. You don't need to overhaul your life overnight. Healing happens through small biological alignments, repeated consistently. A protein-rich breakfast, a 10-minute evening walk, drinking water before coffee, getting sunlight in the morning, adding healthy fats instead of fearing them, respecting sleep, managing stress instead of ignoring it. These aren't trends, they're human design. When we cooperate with biology, metabolic syndrome becomes not a prison, but a turning point. A moment where the body says, thank you, I know what to do next. And it does. Every day, every cell leans toward healing. We just have to let it. For decades, metabolic syndrome was treated like a sentence, not a signal. Doctors delivered warnings, medications were prescribed, and people simply braced themselves for decline. But something changed. Patients started tracking their glucose. Researchers looked beyond calories and weight. Doctors asked new questions. And across the world, ordinary people began experiencing something extraordinary. Reversal, renewal, recovery. Let's step inside the lives of 3 individuals. Not celebrities, not athletes, but everyday people who chose a different path. Not perfection, not punishment, just small steps, consistently. Case study 1, the office worker who rediscovered energy. Mark was a 42-year-old accountant. He didn't think he was unhealthy. He didn't drink soda. He rarely ate fast food, and he wasn't overweight. Not by much. Yet every afternoon, he crashed. His brain fog felt like a wall. Coffee stopped working. He assumed stress was the cause. Then a routine checkup revealed waist gain, elevated fasting glucose, high triglycerides, blood pressure creeping upward, pre-diabetic. The word hit him harder than he expected. Instead of waiting for it to get worse, he made one promise to himself: I will walk after every meal. 10 minutes, sometimes 15. No gym, no intense workouts, just movement. Within weeks, his afternoon crashes faded. His hunger stabilized. His sleep improved. His mood lifted. 3 months later, labs confirmed what his body already knew. Numbers moving back toward normal. No pills, no punishments, just cooperation with biology. Case study 2, the mother who put herself back on the list. Ashley was 36, a mom of 2, and constantly tired. So tired that she thought exhaustion was simply part of motherhood. So tired that she didn't remember how normal felt. Her labs showed early metabolic syndrome, low HDL, high insulin, fatigue and cravings, belly fat she couldn't lose. Her first shift wasn't food, it was sleep. She committed to a real bedtime, screens off, lights lowered, a short stretch routine, breathing exercises. Then she added protein to breakfast and took her kids on a 15-minute walk after dinner. 8 weeks later, Her cravings dropped dramatically. Her mental clarity returned. She lost stubborn weight without dieting. She didn't crash midday. For the first time in years, her body wasn't broken. It was waiting to be supported. Case study 3. The man who thought it was too late. Samuel was 59. He had seen metabolic decline in friends and assumed it was just age. But inside, he still felt young, or wanted to. He just didn't know how to get back. His doctor gave 2 paths: add another medication, or change the inputs and let the body respond. He chose the second. Samuel started strength training, not heavy lifting, just simple slow resistance practice at home. He added fiber, vegetables, beans, chia seeds. He ate protein first. He stopped eating late at night. He walked after meals. 6 months later, his triglycerides dropped, his waist shrank, his stamina returned. And he said something powerful. I didn't get old. I got inflamed and inactive. When I reversed at that, I got my life back. Why these stories matter? Because they prove a truth too many people never hear. Metabolic syndrome isn't a life sentence. It's a wake-up call. It doesn't matter if you're 25 or 65. It doesn't matter if you failed diets before. It doesn't matter if your energy has been low for years. The body doesn't hold grudges. The moment you give it what it needs, it begins to rebuild. Quietly, steadily, faithfully. It wants to heal. It just needs permission. And these changes don't require perfection, only participation. When you support your metabolism supports you. Your body remembers how to thrive. And step by step, day by day, life begins to feel like yours again. The idea that transformation requires dramatic action is one of the greatest myths in health. We imagine total reinvention, intense workouts, perfect diets, strict routines. But metabolism does not respond to extremes. It responds to consistency. The body is not asking for shock. It's asking for support. Modern science now confirms what intuition always knew. Microhabits compound. Biology rewards repetition, not intensity. This is not motivation speaking, it's physiology. Let's break down why small habits create powerful metabolic shifts. Hormones change in response to predictability. The body loves rhythm. Hormones, insulin, cortisol, leptin, ghrelin, are not random. They follow cues. Eat protein in the morning? Hunger stabilizes. Walk after meals? Glucose clears faster. Lift something heavy twice a week? Muscles become insulin-sensitive factories. Sleep at consistent hours. Cortisol regulates. Cravings drop. Hormones rebalance. These shifts don't require aggression. They require signals. And each small habit sends a message. We are safe. We are nourished. We can burn energy instead of hoarding it. The metabolic domino effect. One habit creates conditions for another. Stable blood sugar. Better mood. Better mood. Better decisions. Better decisions. Consistent behavior. Consistent behavior. Metabolic rewiring. Healing doesn't look dramatic at first. It looks ordinary. Waking up with steadier energy. Less hunger in the afternoon. Fewer cravings at night. Clothes fitting more comfortably. Thoughts feeling clearer. Sleep deepening. Motivation returning gently. Quietly. That is metabolic rejuvenation. Not flashy, not fast. Foundational. A new way to think about willpower. Willpower is not a long-term strategy. Biology always wins against force. Traditional dieting says, be stronger than your cravings. Modern metabolic science says, balance your blood sugar so cravings quiet themselves. And when cravings drop, effort is no longer effort. It becomes preference. People don't fail diets. Diets fail biology. The 5-minute rule that changes everything. If a habit takes under 5 minutes, the brain accepts it. There is no resistance, no negotiation. Examples that profoundly change metabolic health. 2 minutes of deep breathing before bed. 5 minutes of morning light exposure. 1 glass of water before coffee. Eating protein first at meals. 10-minute walk after eating. 20 squats before showering. Closing screens 1 hour before bed. Adding leafy greens to a plate. None of these require perfection. They require presence. The body does not transform overnight, but it adapts every day. Small wins create identity shift. At first, habits change metabolism. Eventually, habits change identity. You move from, I'm trying to get healthy, to, I am a person who supports my biology. This identity fuels momentum, and momentum heals. You don't need to sprint. Just keep walking forward. That's how metabolic syndrome reverses, not through force, but through alignment. Healing is not a fight. It's a return. Return to nourishing food. Return to daily movement. Return to real rest. Return to natural rhythms. Return to internal trust. Metabolism is not broken. It's waiting. Waiting for signals, waiting for rhythm, waiting for permission to repair. And once those signals return, the body answers. Quietly, loyally, every day stronger than the last. This is not theory, it is biology. And it means something life-changing. You don't need to overhaul your life. You only need to begin. Metabolic syndrome is not simply a matter of personal choices. It is also a reflection of the world we live in. We are biologically ancient, living in a modern landscape designed for convenience, stimulation, and overconsumption. Our DNA evolved for a life of movement all day, whole seasonal foods, sunlight exposure, deep nightly rest, community and connection, hunger spaced between real meals. But instead, we face a world that offers endless ultra-processed snacks, constant sitting and screens, artificial lighting at midnight, chronic stress without pause, loneliness disguised by digital connection, food within arm's reach at all times. This is not a moral issue. It is an environment mismatch. Metabolism struggles when the world we live in is out of sync with the body we inhabit. The food landscape was engineered to hijack biology. Walk through a grocery store. Bright labels shout, low fat, keto, zero sugar, high protein, heart healthy. But turn the package around and you often find added sugars under new names, seed oils in nearly everything, chemicals to simulate flavor, fiber removed, protein lowered, corn syrup hidden, artificial sweeteners altering glucose response, colors and preservatives replacing nutrients. Modern food isn't food, it's product. Designed not for nourishment, but for addiction. Not to satisfy hunger, but to keep you coming back. The problem isn't that people lack willpower. The problem is that food was redesigned to override willpower, and metabolic syndrome followed. Movement was removed from daily life. For millions of years, movement wasn't exercise. It was survival. Now you can go days without needing to move meaningfully at all. Elevators replace stairs. Delivery replaces walking. Desk work replaces physical tasks. Entertainment occurs seated. Scrolling replaces strolling. Our muscles, once in constant use, now fade quietly. And with them, metabolic resilience. Because muscle is the currency of longevity. When it declines, so does metabolic flexibility. When it returns, so does vitality. Stress became constant, not momentary. Ancient stress was temporary. Run, climb, defend, survive. Modern stress is psychological. Emails, bills, social pressure, notifications, deadlines. Fight or flight never switches off. Cortisol rises. Insulin rises. Belly fat increases. Inflammation grows. Sleep suffers. Cravings intensify. We aren't weak. We are overwhelmed. The world changed faster than biology ever could. Sleep was interrupted by progress. Artificial light extended the day. Screens replaced sunsets. Noise replaced stillness. We traded darkness for dopamine, restfulness for stimulation. Yet sleep is not luxury. It is metabolic infrastructure. Without deep sleep, the body cannot regulate appetite, manage insulin, repair cells, burn fat, balance hormones, maintain emotional stability. We don't rest poorly because we're lazy. We rest poorly because we live in a world designed to keep us awake. Connection was replaced by consumption. Humans once ate together, worked together, lived among each other. Now people scroll more than they share, compare more than they connect, consume more than they converse. Loneliness is inflammation. Isolation is a metabolic burden. The nervous system heals through safety and belonging. Yet many feel alone in crowded cities, overstimulated in quiet rooms. Metabolic syndrome is not just a physical condition, it is a cultural one. The good news: we don't need to reject modern life. We do not have to move to a village. We do not need to hunt or forage. We do not need to abandon convenience. We only need to reintroduce nature into daily life. 5 minutes of sunlight, a walk after eating, whole foods before packaged ones, breath instead of rushing, movement instead of sitting still all day, connection instead of isolation, sleep honored like nutrition. Small acts repeated, nature woven back into routine. We don't need to escape modern life. We only need to rebalance it. And when we do, metabolism responds. Because the body remembers. It always remembers. Metabolic syndrome is often described in numbers, charts, and warnings. But it is not a story about disease. It is a story about potential. A story about a body that has not given up. A system that still wants balance. A physiology waiting patiently to be supported again. The truth is simple, but powerful. Your body is not broken. It is signaling. It asks for rhythm, not restriction. For nourishment, not noise. For movement, not punishment. For rest, not exhaustion. For connection, not isolation. We do not heal through force. We heal through alignment. And every small step toward balance is a step toward reclaiming energy, clarity, hormonal harmony, metabolic strength, confidence in the body again. The world around us may push us toward imbalance, but biology always leans toward restoration. Every cell, every night, every breath you take is a quiet act of survival and renewal. Your body is rooting for you, a choice that begins now. No dramatic transformation needed. No new you by Monday. No perfect plan. Instead, a glass of water before caffeine, protein in the morning, movement after meals, fiber at dinner, light in the morning, screens dimmed at night, permission to slow down, compassion for your biology. These are not trends, they are human design. And when design is honored, health returns. Not suddenly, but reliably. Not loudly, but steadily. Not perfectly, but beautifully. You are not late. Maybe you felt stuck. Maybe you've tried before. Maybe you've been tired for too long. And still, here you are, listening, learning, preparing to begin again. That is not failure. That is persistence. And persistence is how biology heals. The story of metabolic syndrome is not a tragedy. It is an invitation to step back into partnership with your body, to support what has been supporting you your entire life, to return to rhythms older than cities, screens, and schedules, to feel alive again, not by accident, but by alignment. Final message: healing does not ask for perfection. It asks for participation. Your metabolism is not your enemy. It is your ally, waiting to respond. And when you give your body what it remembers, it will give you your life back, piece by piece, breath by breath, day by day. Because the hidden epidemic is real, but so is the hidden power inside you. And now you know how to use it.